So this is my BMW E82 135i, and in the last video we started fitting up this BMW 1M replica body kit. This comes with a bonnet, wings, front bumper, side skirts, rear bumper, rear arches and a spoiler. So we've already got the bonnet, the wings and the side skirts on, and started doing some work on the front bumper and the rear bumper, which is just over here. I now have lots of old parts lying around, so if anyone's interested in these, make sure you hit me up. But today's job is to get this body kit finished. First thing that we're going to be starting with is getting the front bumper on.
That's right, so if you watched the last video, you'll remember that we started work on the front and rear bumpers by drilling holes for the parking sensors and also gluing on the parking sensor holders onto the back. If you did miss it though, I'm going to leave a link in the top right hand corner for you to go and catch up on the other parts of the install. And you can see here that we're having a little bit of trouble just getting this front bumper on. It's just not quite fitting right, so there's a bit of trimming here and there that's needed. The first part is on the headlight support bracket, which kind of bolts everything together with the old front bumper, wings and headlights, but it's definitely not going to work with the new one. Next up, on the back of the bumper, we were getting some fitment issues caused by the bigger intercooler which is fitted on this car. So what we had to do is just trim away some of the plastic, which you won't see because it's going to be behind the grille, in order to get that fitting a little bit better.
So I'm really just finding it hard to get the front bumper in position, and I want to try and take off as little underneath the car as possible, but I don't think this is stopping it. Maybe the chunkier intercooler's getting in the way a tad, but I'm just really finding it hard to get both sides lining up nicely and getting them screwed into place. I've had to do a bit of chopping in order to get them sitting a little bit better, and I can get one side looking nice, and it's just stretching it around to the other side is then putting that side out, and then I still can't get that other side in. So I think there's some more stuff that I need to take off, or a bit more chopping that I need to do, but I'm starting to get an idea of what it's going to look like, and I'm liking the look, but yeah, finding it a little bit difficult.
So one of the jobs that I did need to do in order to get this bumper on was actually make the headlight washer jet holes slightly bigger, because the ones that come on the 1M stay in the bumper all the time and always kind of sit out, where the ones that come on the 135 come out when they're used. So I'm not going to change those, I'm just going to make this hole a little bit bigger and the trim will cover that up. And don't worry, yes, it will be tidied up a little bit once we get it right. Yet despite all the valiant efforts we were making, the bumper still wasn't quite sitting right. It was still very tight on the corners, so again, some more trimming was needed around the intercooler in order to get this fitting a little bit better. Now everything was lining up that little bit better, I could start bolting it up. So I used 2 nuts and bolts with washers on each side to keep the wing and the bumper nice and tight. I did have to drill a small hole in the wing in order to get this bolt to go through in the right place and be able to use a bigger washer, which is going to spread the load much better than just using a small nut and bolt. And while we're on the subject of new things like this body kit, if you are new to the channel, please do consider pressing on that subscribe button and sticking around for the future. So there's one side done, onto the other side doing exactly the same in order to get the front bumper fully bolted up. It would have been nice to be able to keep the headlight support bracket, but I believe again the one on the 1M is slightly different, so it just wasn't going to work. And if I can make it work without having to buy loads and loads of parts from BMW, this is definitely the better option, because you know, we are working on a budget at the end of the day. In regards to the spoiler, I think I'm going to paint this myself, so I'm going to leave it off the car for now and leave it with the original one, and then we can fit this when we change the body colour of the car. And that is the front bumper done. Now time to turn our attention to the rear bumper, which we can just clip into place. This did take some stretching around the body of the car to get it to clip in both sides, because it was quite a tight fit, but I suppose that's not a bad thing.
So there is the front end now bolted on, and it's pretty solid. One of the clips here is not playing ball and doesn't want to tighten up for some reason, not quite sure why. But apart from that, it's looking alright. The gaps are not as bad as what I thought they'd be, and it all lines up not too bad, if I'm being honest with you. It looks okay. I've still got to cut out the washer jet holes up here. I'm not sure whether I need to cut out the vent holes or if I can just stick the vents over the top when they get here, but I'll leave them as they are for now. Now it's time to turn my attention to the back end, where I haven't got the arches on yet, and the bumper is only clipped in, but needs bolting in. So bolting that in is the next bit, and then I'm going to start looking at lining up the rear arches and seeing what I've got to do with those, which I'm not looking forward to be honest with you, but step by step, bumper next, let's go.
The rear bumper was a much easier process because once the parking sensors are in, there's nothing else that needs to go on there, and it doesn't really need to go around anything but the car itself. So luckily some holes came pre-drilled in the bumper, and those holes line up exactly with the bracket that's already on the car. And we are going to have to trim it a little bit later in the video just to get it sitting tighter into the body a little bit, but for now this will do. So once I'd finished messing around with the nuts and bolts and the wheel arches, it was time to refit the rear lights. I don't know if you actually have to remove these or not to get the rear bumper off, but it definitely made it a little bit easier. So again, popping those back in, plugging them in before you do so, and there's 3 8mm I believe in the back of the headlight to tighten it up behind the carpet in the boot. So there is the rear end complete, bar the diffuser, which I'll come to later in the video. And next up is just to refit the trims for the side skirts and then turn our attention onto the bonnet for those washer jet holes. I had to drill the holes out with a big drill bit to get started, and then I could kind of do the refining work with a Dremel to get those to fit properly. Not particularly fun, I'm sure you can imagine, drilling a hole in a brand new bonnet, but we got there in the end and we could connect everything for the washer jets back up underneath there. Luckily, the grills from the old bumper fit directly into the new one, so with a little bit of shimmying we managed to get these to clip in. And for the meantime, I just put the old wheel arch linings back together, which does leave a gap around the edge, but I can address this in another video and we can get the wheel back on.
So the front end is now all on and in place, and the next thing I want to do is try and get this bonnet closing so I can drive the car to the body shop and get those rear arches looked at. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to drill a hole in the bonnet slightly bigger, so it's this one it's got to go in. I'm going to drill that slightly larger and then try and tap the metal plate behind it and hopefully be able to wind in that kind of metal hook which will clamp it down and keep the bonnet shut and keep everyone, including myself, nice and safe.
So at this point, to be honest with you, I was sort of praying that this was going to work, because if I messed this up, this was kind of my only shot to get this right, otherwise the job was going to be much more time consuming. So using, I believe, a 6mm drill bit, I drilled the fiberglass out and then used a tap which matched what the thread was on the bonnet hook thing, and tapped through the fiberglass and into the metal plate behind, which hopefully should let that hook then screw in nice and easy. And not everything goes perfectly first time, but here we go. Maybe there's a small adjustment needed here. And there we have it, one solidly closed bonnet.
So progress is actually pretty good. The bonnet now shuts, which means I can drive the car again, which is sick. But there is a little bit of alignment on the bonnet which needs to be played with, but I can come back to that at another time. The rear bumper is also on minus the rear diffuser. This is because of my exhaust at the moment, my dual tip one over here. it doesn't line up with the cutout essentially on the diffuser, so I'm having to run diffuserless at the moment, which does look a bit rubbish, but I'll get an exhaust made to fit the new diffuser, and then that'll be fine too. So next thing to deal with is the rear arches. Now, I'd be lying to you guys if I said I was feeling confident with doing these. They don't look like they're going to be the easiest to fit, and I think you could very easily mess this up, and there isn't really any going back after you do so. So I'm going to cop out a little bit here. I'm going to try and take this to a body shop and see if they fancy finishing the job off for me, because I want it to be right over doing it myself. Even though I would like to see myself do it, I'm not feeling 100% confident, so that's not how you want to feel, I think, when you're cutting up your car. So. Okay, so today I have a good feeling. I'm not working on the car today. I'm actually just about to drop it off to the body shop, or, well, to have those rear arches blended in and bonded to the body, because I think it's a little bit out of where my talents lie. And also, we're going to Germany this weekend. I'm going in Matt's E46, and we're going to the Nürburgring, so I won't be able to do any work on the car this weekend, so that keeps the project moving, keeps things moving forward. But that's beside the point. Right now, I'm just about to bid on a new car for the channel, and I'm actually like, I'm so nervous about it. I'm like feeling like I have a nervous poo. We've got 1 minute, 37 seconds left on the auction. Fingers crossed, we're getting it. I'm feeling good. Everything, all the stars are aligning today, and this is the final one to fall into place to complete this week. So let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, I'm actually buzzing. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. Okay, 50 seconds remaining. Oh, the boys are going mad. Boys, I'm so nervous. I'm shitting. I've got the shakes. Right, 26 seconds remaining. Let's smash that button. Bang. 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 Come on. Okay. Someone else has bid quite a lot in one chunk. Me bidding has now put it back over a minute again. Okay, we're just keeping on pressing this button. Jesus Christ, come on. Okay, still not winning, come on. Well, this is a bit of an anticlimax, so I had a number in mind. It was well below that. I've just kept pressing the button until we got to where I wanted to be, and it's not said that I'm winning one. So someone's already spotted this and thrown a big number on it, so I don't know, I'm just gonna go over my budget and see what happens. Okay, I had a second wind and I just kept pressing the button. Oh, for God's sake. God's sake. I'm not winning again. I'm just gonna keep pressing it. Okay, I'm back in the game, I'm winning. A minute to go, come on. Come on, for God's sake, man. Brilliant. Well, that was an anticlimax, and that's really rained on my parade, so that's that. Let's go drop this car off. So apologies about the next couple of clips, but I thought it was really important to show you guys. I've dropped the one series off to a chap called Luke and asked him to film some of the clips for us, but he's filmed them in portrait for us rather than landscape. So instead, you just have to have a real close-up of my face on the side whilst you're viewing these next clips. So what Luke is doing here is cutting out the old arches. He's cutting away the metal, which is going to get in the way of the new wider wheels which we put on when this 1M Widebody kit is done. Next up, he cuts what's left of the arches into fingers and then bends them up in order to weld up the gaps, and then fiberglass it in order to make sure that no water gets in between the panel gaps, which is going to cause rusting or any further problems in the future. In order to get the best bond on the panel, he takes away the existing paint to make sure that when he sticks that arch on, it is never ever going to come off. Now, I know some people don't like these fiberglass arches and would prefer to put on a whole rear quarter from a 1M, but that's a really, really expensive option, and I am not made of money. So this is what we went for anyway. But now that the arch is all prepped, now what I've got to do is stick on the arch and then fill it in the gap to make sure that it looks as original as a complete rear quarter job would. And in order to do that, you build up layers of filler and sand it back, and do this repetitively until it's a completely seamless job. And the final step is to get this in primer, ready for our colour change when we come round to it. But that is the new arches now on. I apologise for those real close-up clips of my face, but you're going to have to wait until the next video on the 135i in order to see that body kit finish. I'm really, really sorry about that, but it's just how it is. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. There will be a new car coming soon, I promise you. It wasn't the one that I was bidding on, but there is one coming, so make sure you stay tuned on that, and I'll catch you in the next video.